This video is about my first 3 months earnings and learnings driving for Amazon Flex. And by the way, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever, whenever you are. Did you know that as a gig driver, you're a small business owner? That's right. Providing services as an independent subcontractor to another business makes you and me small business people. Congratulations, you should be proud of that. And we don't think about that very often. And you know what successful businesses do, big or small? They watch their numbers. Now, I learned quickly that not every block, route, or job is worth the trouble. And there are a couple of red flags I've picked up on that are going to help avoid those losers, and more on those in a bit. Much of this video is about numbers because numbers tell a tale. So we'll talk about what to watch and how to improve them. And this is focused on Amazon Flex, but the core ideas translate across other companies. Just to set the stage, I live in a rural area. My averages might look different than someone in a metro area that doesn't have to drive as far between stops. And frankly, I think us small town flex drivers make less overall because of the higher mileage and rougher roads. So I've tuned in on a few key numbers that it pays to watch like a hawk. Do the same and you might just be ahead of the game. Here's one of my mantras. What gets measured gets better. That little tidbit worked for me when I ran big box stores, and it works just as well for me now. That said, these are my 3 months actual numbers driving for Flex. And right now, I only drive for Flex. I may do some other things later, but right now, it's all Flex, and that's meeting my goals. Now, I have built my own spreadsheet to keep track of these and to keep track of that one number that will save or cost you tons of money depending on what you do with it. And I'll tell you about that in just a minute. So my 3 months gross income was $4,720, which is about $393 a week. Now, you can kind of compare that top line to the pay stub you get when you work for somebody else as an employee. That first number looks great, but it isn't what you get. It's what you earned before they took out all those deductions. Now, my 3-month fuel expense, which is the biggest single hard expense, was $1,042. And that's usually your biggest deduction from your gross income. And by the way, gas prices have swung wildly during this time that I'm covering today because of things going on in other parts of the world. I'm in level 3 in the Flex Rewards program, and I didn't adjust for that 4% rebate that I get back on the Flex debit card. So it's worth leveling up when you can, and for me, I doubt I can get to level 4. I'd love to hear from somebody that's at level 4, know what they're doing and how they got there and how they stay there. Another way to save a little is to be in a rewards program at the gas station you fill up at. So to my 3 months after fuel, I'm at $3,677. Again, after the fuel expense is taken out. And that's still a pretty good chunk of change. Now, in those 3 months, I worked 177 and a half hours, or a little under 15 hours a week. Now, I enjoy watching those numbers climb, but am I really making money, and is the time worth the effort? Following are a key measure or two that help answer that am I really making money question. Average hourly rate's important because it's easy to compare. Are you making more than you would flipping burgers or running a register somewhere? So my 3-month average hourly rate was $20.72 net after fuel versus $28.69 before deducting that substantial expense. And I'll put a breakdown each month right here. As you can tell, I've improved each month, partly by learning what blocks to avoid and by being more efficient in my work. How does that compare to you? Are you in a city, rural, or a mix? I really love to hear in the comments. I suspect that metro people have different numbers than what we have out here in the countryside. And then there's mileage. And as you know, every mile costs fuel and wear and tear on your vehicle. And it's a part of what you're selling as a small business person. And I drove 5,306 miles in this time period, this 3 months. Here's why it's so critical to keep track of every mile. And this is the thing a lot of people miss. Those are business miles. And since you're a small business person, you can deduct every one of those miles from your taxable income, and it moves the number a lot. And from my informal, non-scientific research, asking other drivers, a surprising number don't really keep good track of that. And everybody kind of knows they should and kind of, laissez-faire a little bit about it in some cases. And that's just giving money to the government. So you can give yourself a raise by being militant about tracking every legit mile. And let me show you why. As of this filming, the IRS allows 72.5 cents per mile for deduction. And you can see where I'm going on this. After driving 5,306 miles in those 3 months, that deduction is $3,846, which comes right off the top. That number means a ton. Now, you can't deduct gas and miles. You have to pick. And frankly, for a mixed-use vehicle, personal and business, mileage is tons easier, and it works fine, in my opinion. So my gross income of $4,720 less the mileage deduction of $3,846 drops my taxable income to $874. And let's say at a 20% tax rate, that income tax is $174 versus paying tax based on the gross income without mileage deduction. And again, at 20%, the tax would be $944, a $770 difference, or about $3,000 a year. So what does $770 or $3,000 pay do for you in your world? So give yourself a raise, track every single business mile. Now, other expenses add up too. The magnet sign on the back of your car, the anti-glare night glasses you had to buy to drive safer at night, the tire that blew when you were on the job by driving over a stick that ruined it. Happened to me. Save those receipts. You know, there's a reason big companies don't pay much in taxes. It's because they track and deduct everything. They use those rules to their advantage, and you can too. So keep in mind, there are two ways to make money: bring in more or have less go out. And managing every single mile, tracking every single mile can have a whole lot less go out. You'll be amazed at the end of the year. Your wallet and your tax person will love you. And again, I'm not a tax expert, and the rules change all the time. So always consult a tax professional. That's a hard word to say, professional. I don't use an app. I'm sure there are some great choices out there. I've looked at a couple of them. But I hate paying for anything I don't have to, and the free versions that I've looked at don't really do the job. So I use an old school, small spiral notebook. I keep it in my car. I jot down beginning miles, ending miles, gross pay, and the projected time. And once a week or so, I transfer those numbers to my spreadsheet. And by the way, if you go this way, save those handwritten notebooks into your tax file. Those extemporaneous notes can help you prove those expenses. However you do it, keep track of every mile and every expense. Some apps help with that. If you pay for the app, that's another business expense for your small business. Then there are red flags. Finding those red flags is part of what is helping me improve my actual hourly wage. Or it's not a wage, rate. Keep in mind that I'm in a rural market. Our facility defaults to 3.5-hour blocks most of the time. They have a few 4 hours once in a while, 3 hours, and occasional 2-hour blocks. And those are straight delivery blocks. We don't have those short notice, quick pickup blocks around my area yet. It'll probably be a while. The 1 2-hour block I did involved driving nearly an hour to the delivery area, an hour delivering, and an hour driving home. So I got paid $59 for 2 hours, worked 3 hours, and drove 130 miles. That didn't add up no matter how I sliced it. The few 3-hour blocks I've done have almost as many packages and just as many miles as the 3.5-hour blocks, and they pay less. And I've done enough of those to know that that's normal, so they're off my list. The 4-hour blocks don't come up often, but they have just a few more packages and pay better. They jump on those whenever they come up. Another issue that comes up is hard to deliver packages, a closed road, a gate, dogs hemming me in, things like that. I do everything I possibly can to deliver that package so I can avoid that expense of taking the package back to the warehouse. A few extra minutes during a route is easier than an extra trip to the warehouse, which is usually the next day. Time is money, miles are money. And the other mostly avoidable expense is tolls. There's only one toll road in our area, and it's outrageously expensive, and it is avoidable. I understand in some places there's no other option. So check with Flex on their toll rules in your area. But where I am, they don't pay for them, even though the app directs me to drive on them. So here's the hack to avoid the tolls. There's a little box at the bottom left-hand corner with an arrow in it. Click on that, and the choice of Apple Maps comes up. And I assume Google comes up on Android phones. I've set avoid tolls as a default in my Apple Maps. It gives me non-toll roads as choices. I find on average that adds about 10 minutes each way to my travel time and hardly anything in miles. So it's a trade-off. It's one I choose to take. Apple Maps can also be a lifesaver when you run into a closed road. The Flex app is terrible in knowing closed roads and only gives you that one route. Apple Maps will give you multiple options, and one of them will get you around that obstruction. There are two ways to make money. One is to bring more in, and one is to have less go out. And if you're working on both of those, you might be okay. So give yourself a raise, track every single business mile, and remember, not every drive is worth the bottom line effort. So check out my next video on my biggest time saver, and thanks for watching.